Today's guest is Christine O'Reilly, who is an accountant and bookkeeper. And after spending 10 years in the worlds of private and private accounting, Christine knew that she loved what she was doing, but she also knew that there was a huge disconnect between herself and her clients. So she decided to become a finance manager for small business owners and do that by supporting them through every phase of their business and, most importantly, speaking to them like humans. So, Christine, thank you very much for being here. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing very well. Thank you.
You're very welcome. It's always fun. Like I've had a few accountants come on to the show before, and usually for people that are so like, okay, like give me the process, give me the numbers, make
hmm
everything, checks and balances and all of that. Usually it's a very interesting experience when they dive into stuff that isn't so clear cut, isn't binary, there's no equation for it, and is much more flowy. So I'm excited to dive into this with you. But before we get into all of that, why don't you give us some background on, like who you are, how you got to doing what you're doing? Floor is yours for that.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm Christine. I'm a finance manager, excuse me. I work with entrepreneurs, small businesses. I actually didn't complete my schooling until my 30s, early 30s, because I decided that I wanted something stable. So like my mom said, death and taxes, you'll always have a job. I ended up at a public accounting firm, which I absolutely loved the work, loved people. The only thing I didn't really love was like the 80 plus hours during tax time. COVID happened. So my husband took a leave to homeschool our son. And we were like, this could be like kind of a cool life. We'd always talked about moving to Mexico. So I quit my job at the end of May 2021. I had 3 clients. And then we moved to Mexico in July 2021. And now we are still living in Mexico. Business is booming. It's been amazing and terrifying and wonderful and crazy all at the same time.
Love it. What a perfect example of like, weird circumstances opening up the door for something greater than you might have actually even considered doing had those circumstances
Totally.
not been there, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
very cool. So yeah, then I'd love to dive into, you made this change relatively early to this recording, like we're in, whatever
Yep.
last quarter of 2022. So it's relatively fresh,
hmm
yet seems like, okay, business is booming. This is working for like my life and where I want to go. What are kind of the challenges that you're experiencing right now and all of that?
Um, I would say my challenges are definitely figuring out a business model that's going to scale sustainably. Because I'm only one human, obviously. I do have like an operations manager that works with me that does some bookkeeping for me. I've hired a couple subcontractors. It's been fucking disastrous. So I'm a little gun shy to like hire anyone else. So right now I'm really trying to figure out like how do we scale this thing past the sort of like right now my income's sitting like monthly between anywhere between 8 in a shitty month and like 15 on a good month, depending on what I sell. So, I mean, how do we scale this sustainably past that? Because like I'm building a fucking vampire. So it needs to be bigger months than that. So that's one sort of struggle, I guess, that I'm dealing with right now. Um, work-life balance is always a thing. And I think it becomes I don't want to say harder, just different than because you still have that work-life balance struggle in corporate. When you're an entrepreneur, like I'm obsessed with what I do, right? So like I can do it for like 12, 14 hours a day and like it doesn't bother me because I love what I do. But I love having the freedom of like, I'm okay, here's an example. So I get up at like 4 or 5 in the morning. I work till like lunchtime, about this time. I nap every single day. And then I work again in the evening. So like having that flexibility to me is more important than like, oh, I only work 1 hour a day and make $8 bazillion. So, but then I guess sometimes, my husband and my son maybe don't feel as I don't want to say important. That's not the right word, but they don't feel like they rank as high as my work, maybe. I don't know.
Got it.
This is me
So
being vulnerable.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. And it's a very real thing, right? Like I have this part of me that wants to grow, and I know that
Hmm.
I can, and I know it requires a certain amount of effort on my part, but at the same
Hmm.
time, right, there's other people that are important to me as well, and I don't
Yeah.
want to feel them like make them feel neglected. So it's 100% relevant and 100% common. So what I would then bring back to you, it's like, okay, you clearly have a very good business acumen to get to that level like that quickly, right? Especially having successfully or not, but like taking the plunge to like outsource and do the thing. And it seems like you have somebody that is on your team that is
Hmm.
good, right? So that's also happened fairly quickly. I know off air you mentioned you do have mentorship in this area, and it's like you've invested in yourself, you know all of the things. So from the outside looking in, at least at this point, it doesn't sound like there is a big gap as far as like understanding what it is I need to do to go to that next level. Okay.
Hmm.
So before I go on, does that like how does that land for you?
So when it's said back to me, and to be like completely transparent, I do have this conversation with my therapist too. Like when I say it out loud, sometimes I'm like, Christine, like get the fuck over yourself. Like you've been in business for like a year and a half. You're making 5-figure months most months. Like take a fucking chill pill and like be grateful for where you're at. And so I don't want it to sound like I'm not grateful for where I'm at, because I am. Um, I know that I've been successful quickly, I guess. To me, it doesn't feel fast enough. That's where that goes.
Got it. So what I find interesting in your reflection is I actually said nothing about being grateful or slowing down. Right. I actually just said it seems to me like you know what you need to do to move forward. Where your brain went was I'm ungrateful and I'm not like actually chilling and enjoying this. So what lands for you with that reflection?
Touche, sir. Brains are mysterious things.
They sure are. So
um,
what's coming up for you then when I shared that like disconnect between what it is that I shared and then where your brain went?
Honestly, like the first thought that popped in my head was like, well, shit, he's totally right. He didn't say anything about that. Like, why would my brain go there? Clearly, there's something in there that's like, you're not grateful enough.
Right. So is there a part that isn't actually grateful for where you're at or feels like where you're at is enough?
Oh, I definitely don't feel like where I'm at is enough. 100%.
Great.
Like in terms of gratitude, I think like, do I write in a gratitude journal every day and those kind of things? No. But do I have moments every day where I'm like, shit, I can see the beach? Or like, do you know what I mean? Like I have moments all throughout my day where I'm like, my life is pretty fucking cool, you know? So I think I am grateful. I think it's more about worthiness.
Okay. So tell me more about that.
Um I don't give me a prompt. Give me a prompt. What do you want to know?
Sure. So your brain went to this like I'm not grateful bit, and then you highlighted that okay, well where I'm at is currently like it's definitely not enough. I am
Hmm.
grateful for the life that I get
Hmm.
to live, but like it was a very clear no, 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 my business like it's like a complete and utter like zero to where it is that I want to go, right? When I ask you to dive deeper into this, like, okay, well, it's actually about worthiness. So how much of your significance and worthiness is reflected in the size of your business?
Like 98.9%.
Okay, great.
I'm a type A overachiever.
Okay. And if you didn't overachieve, then fill in the blank.
Then I'd fail.
Okay. So I'm either an overachiever as defined by some nebulous arbitrary amount,
Thing. Yes,
or I'm an absolute complete failure.
correct.
Great. Is that a recipe for the fulfillment you're looking to experience inside of this life?
We're going to go with a hard no on that one.
Okay. Why?
Because my therapist says this to me all the time as well. Life is not pass fail. In fact, I'm supposed to be working on setting good, better, best goals instead of just like pass fail goals, because I do tend to go to this like, I didn't achieve this, so I have failed. Where it's like when you set, theoretically, when you set good, better, best, it's like, okay, I didn't hit the best goal, but I still hit the better goal or the good goal, you know? So I'm working on it, but like, I don't know, it's just not who I am. I just, you
Right. So
know,
you intellectually understand that, but internally, that's like a load of BS.
it's not even that it's BS. It's just like it's really fucking hard for me. It's really hard to not be pass fail, you
Great.
know?
So who would you be, or what would it mean about you if you were right in the middle?
Like if I was in the better,
Correct.
I could be better.
Okay. That you could be, that's true. But what would it mean about you if you just chilled at better?
That there would still be more to achieve.
Also true, but not really answering the question. Like, what would it mean about Christine to just be better?
I would probably feel like I wasn't like fulfilling my potential,
And what would that mean about you?
that I wasn't doing enough, that I could do more.
Okay. And you can always do more.
Hmm.
But if you were to choose to not do more, then what's the feeling inside?
I get a little bit like panicky.
Okay. So great awareness. Are
Well, what
you,
if all my clients just disappeared? You know what I mean? What if I was just like, I'm going to chill out at better? And then all my clients were like, bye. And then I was like,
so
okay, my
your
family has no
clients
fucking money.
hire you to achieve your definition of better, or they hire you to do a service for them?
Well, put it like that. They hire me to do a service for them.
Right. But your brain went to, if I stick to better, if I choose better consciously, nobody will actually hire me.
I want to be the best.
Okay. And being the best can mean I have a very good skill set that people pay me for,
Hmm.
but that is completely separate from what you choose as far as your version of better, your output, your view of yourself in that space.
It is completely separate.
I mean, is it? What's your internal interpretation of that?
Um, I think, and it could be a big fat lie I'm telling myself, that when I achieve this goal of being the best, whatever that is, because it's not like I have it written down on paper, like you are the best when, you know. But I feel like when I achieve being the best, that I'll feel fulfilled and be like, okay, now we can chill.
Great. So when you achieve something that is completely undefined, that is not written down, isn't even clear, but when you get there to this completely mysterious, undefined place, then you'll actually feel fulfilled and worthy.
Correct.
Great.
I sound like an accountant, don't I?
You would sound like a creative accountant. Like when we mysteriously put this somewhere and like it does something, then it'll be great. So I would actually argue you don't sound like an accountant because none of that is actually very clear,
True.
right?
And maybe that's why I like accounting. I like math. There's always a right answer. Do you know what I mean? Like checks and balances, debits and credits, like things always balance. It's very defined. It's, for my brain, it's easy, right? Well, quote unquote easy. I mean, you can get a little bit into like the advisory stuff, and there you're like doing some interpretation. But okay, here's a great example. I hate projections. Why do I hate projections? Because they're essentially made up numbers. You're just taking historical data and forecasting forward, but you really don't know. All you can hope to be is less wrong. I hate that,
Right.
you know? So, yeah, why don't I apply that to like my own self?
Well, it seems to be very parallel and reflective of your own nebulous projection of I'm chasing best and I want best and I have to have more, none of which are undefined, but I'm putting 98.5% of my significant self-worth into achieving it.
Yes. Sounds completely reasonable.
Completely, right? So even if it sounds that sarcastic, reasonable, is that the way you wish to live?
Intellectually, like this part of my head, like this part of my being is like, no. This part of my heart, like here is like, no. But the insecure financial part is like, yes,
Okay.
if that makes
So
sense.
it does.
Okay.
So that insecure part that is essentially deathly afraid to define anything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that resonates. So
Mm-hmm.
that insecure part that is deathly afraid to define anything is also the part that is propelling you forward into chasing more without actually ever getting anywhere in the hopes that one day somehow you will find the worthiness in the achievement.
Correct.
Okay. And how does that make you feel?
Kind of stupid.
Why?
Well, because it's completely irrational.
Okay. So, what I find interesting about that response is when you reflected back the inner emotional logic that's powering what you described as the one big friction point of work life balance. Like, my family feels neglected by me chasing this significance.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing that comes up is judgment. This part is very stupid.
I am very judgy on myself.
Well, how could you not be judgy when 98% of your worthiness is put into achievement? Right? It's
And you
very
know,
hard.
it
Sorry,
has
go
been
ahead.
my whole life.
I don't doubt that at all. Right? Like,
Yeah.
nobody gets to the level that you've gotten to this quickly without being extremely good at making sure that you achieve and don't look less than.
Okay, good point.
So
Yeah,
what
I hate looking less than.
yeah. And you've structured your business, you've structured your goals with impossible like standards
Mm-hmm.
and in many ways neglected parts of your life
Mm-hmm.
to ensure that you don't look less than.
Correct. And you know what's interesting is I would never hold, we'll use my operations manager as an example. I would never hold her, like I do have high expectations as the CEO. I have high standards, but I would never hold her to the standards that I hold myself to, ever, because they're completely unrealistic.
Yep.
You know,
Because those same standards allow you to confirm the fundamental piece that's powering your actions, which is I'm unworthy. So if I set unrealistic standards that I don't even have other people meet, that continues to reaffirm that I'm actually not good enough.
yeah,
Okay.
to
So
say.
what is coming up for you right now?
You know what's popping up in my head is this past weekend, I did a little exercise with myself. I went on the gram and I actually unfollowed every single person that I was following related to finance, whether they were a bookkeeper, a fractional CFO, a profit consultant, like anything other than like my mentor in that area. Other than that, I unfollowed everyone. And it was because I was like, I need to stop worrying about that so and so uses crystals in her business. And I think that's idiotic. And she's charging $8,000 a month. And like, what the fuck? You know? So I don't know. I feel like that was like a baby step
Towards what?
towards staying in my own fucking lane.
Okay. And what's that got to do with your unworthiness?
Because if I stay in my own lane, I will get to where I am going faster.
Which is,
That nebulous point that is undefined.
yep. So what you're going to do is you're going to cover a lot of distance without ever actually being sure if you're closer to where you need to go.
I know. God.
Right? Which further
Like,
perpetuates not only the not good enough, but also has the consequences of neglecting the people that are important to me, probably neglecting aspects of yourself
oh,
because I
100%.
constantly have to be in motion to go somewhere undefined.
Yeah. You're like some weird witchy brain surgeon. How's that for a testimonial?
That would be a good one. Yes, I agree. So
Yeah.
before we go on, why don't you just summarize for me in your own words what's coming up for you? What are takeaways or observations that you've seen so far?
um, that if I'm going to work towards something that I consider quote unquote best, that I best clearly fucking define that. Because how else am I supposed to know if I get there? And you can't achieve goals. And it's so interesting because I say this to my clients like, okay, you have a goal of $1 million business, but you can't know if you're getting there if you don't know your numbers, right? And it's like, I'm like kind of the opposite. It's like, how do I know when I've gotten there if I don't even know what that is? You know? So, yeah, I think it would be important for me to define what I consider best or better or whatever it is that I want to hit. And then once I get there, we can worry about the next.
Correct. And what would be something that's unsafe about defining that best or that goal for yourself?
What if I don't make it? What if I don't
Right.
hit it, achieve it?
Because if you define success, you've also inadvertently defined failure. And if I never
Correct.
define failure,
I
then
can never
I
fail.
never risk my unworthiness being shown to me with outside circumstances and reflection. Right. Like if I'm chasing more, and that means it's never enough. So I'm
Hmm.
always chasing more possibility to find worthiness in myself. And it's so undefined that I never have the possibility to fail, which means the world will never show me and reflect back to me what I actually feel inside. Then I've created the perfect circumstances to continuously be on a hamster wheel that goes absolutely nowhere and never actually solves the real issue, which is I'm looking at my business to solve an issue it cannot actually solve, which is no amount of business success is ever going to make you feel whole. It's never going to make you feel worthy.
Are my business problems really me problems?
Are they?
It's
Correct.
very interesting because it does kind of feel a little hamster wheelie at the moment. You know, like it's cool, like the bills are paid, we got money in the bank, things are going well, but it's like I just can't get, you know? So, oh, but how do you just like woman up and just, you know, do it scared, as they say?
So do what scared?
Like set the goal, like define it, make it not so nebulous.
So okay, define it right now. You have the skill set. You do this for your clients all the time.
Yeah. I 1000% want to have a seven-figure firm. That's like definitely a goal.
Okay.
Um, okay, so I do have goals. Okay. So like in the future, I don't have a timeline on this one, but my idea would be to be the CEO. So like I have my firm, right? And it's like generating money, just like, and I'm taking a salary as the CEO, but I've reached a point where like I'm on my fucking yacht on the ocean. That's
Yep.
my, that's my like, if you wanted me to close my eyes and like do some vision, shit, that's what I would do.
Perfect. So we just spent about 20 minutes of me breaking down how your unworthiness shows up in a very, like, one of the contributing to it is like, okay, I'm always searching for best, which is undefined. And yet when I challenged you to define it, you defined it crystal clear, right? So either when I was reflecting it back, there was a part of you that didn't want to be like, no, 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 you're actually wrong. I do know where it is that I want to go, right? Why? Going back to exactly what we mentioned a few minutes ago, which is if I define that and I don't even have an aggressive goal to get there. So technically, I don't even need to work 14 hours. I could just stretch that out to less. Like I could work less to get to where I want to go, to define my closer. But I'm not even going to say that because if I do, then I've already defined success and failure. And then we go back into that whole fear bit. So do you see how that part of you, the one that feels unworthy, is basically the lens through which not just you view your business, but how you make decisions, it's how you communicate and ultimately make the strategy of where you're going to go or not go, right? It is literally the first thing that creates your reality, not the authentic desire. That's kind of distorted in there somewhere. It's in there, but it's distorted with this lens. So,
It is in there somewhere.
oh, it's definitely in there. I don't doubt that. I think you have very clear inklings of like, I know who I am. I know what I want. I know what my authentic life is going to look like.
Yeah, but can I really do it?
Not if you are looking for your business to make you feel whole.
So then where do
Or
you
you
look?
will get there, but it'll feel like the empty version of this right now, right? Which is even worse. Like if I've done all the work, invested all the years to make
Gone
this
there.
seven-figure dream, only to get there and it's now completely empty or I'm completely miserable, or the feeling isn't like the feeling that I wanted isn't actually there, then what was the point of doing this? Because the flip side of that is, what if the feeling of wholeness you could have when you have $500,000 business and you're blissfully happy,
Hmm.
right? Like, would that
I
be good
mean,
enough?
trust me, even having a $500,000 business, I would be like, boom, I'm a boss bitch. Like I just um I just know, I don't know how to explain it. Like I just know in my guts. And I've known this ever since I decided, like, started making my exit plan out of corporate, that I was going to be like big shit, you know? Um, but then there's that part that's like, but what if I'm not?
Right. And the what if I'm not is exactly the part that would want to set a goal like, I want to be the big shit, right? Like that is in perfect alignment with insecurity setting a goal to create a world where it's now sure that it's not actually less than, right? And the actual thing can look exactly the same. Like your big shit vision can
Mm-hmm.
look exactly the same from a place of insecurity and from a place of peace and self-worth. But who you are experiencing it is going to be a night and day difference.
Interesting.
So
And
what's landing for you there?
I don't disagree at all. Like honestly, if I achieved my seven-figure, I'm the CEO out on my yacht vision and was miserable, do you know like how fucking disappointing that would be?
Yeah, and it happens all the time. Like it
Right?
is
Like
just
people become like bazillionaires, but they're fucking miserable. And I
correct.
don't want that to be me. I would want to, and again, I'm using this example only from watching this person through social media, but like Gary V is like a role model of mine because he's a bazillionaire, but he's also seems like through social media a kind, generous, giving human, right? And that's who I want to be. You know, like I want to be happy and fulfilled and giving and generous and also a bazillionaire.
Yeah. So what I would say to that is like if you can spot it, you got it. Right. And it's what I was telling you before. It's like I can see that the vision is there and it's clear. It's just very much distorted in like this is gonna fill the hole in my soul. Right. That's really the work in front of you.
Yeah. So I would take that and say, okay, when I'm going to make decisions in my business, like let's start there, right? I need to really question myself. Is this decision coming from a place of insecurity, or is it coming from a place of this is getting me one step closer to the big vision, like the big goal, right? Instead of
So
just like flying by the seat of my pants,
100%.
chasing more.
Yeah. 100%. And the work to genuinely be okay with yourself is going to look different than the strategy than you're used to,
I
right?
hate
That's
inner
going to
work.
be, yeah, I know.
Inner work's so
That's less fun
hard.
work. Yes, I agree. Making plans and then executing them and then making the money from them is way more fun than diving into what is the root cause that got me to believe that I am less than. What are the emotions that are still stuck in my system and in my body surrounding that? What are the inner paradigms that are creating the lenses that make me view the world in this distorted way? And when I clear those up, you're basically clearing the friction for what you just described. Then you have a clean slate to ask yourself, okay, am I making this decision in tune with my highest vision, or am I making it out of these old patterns?
Yeah.
Right? You can do that now, but you always run the risk of still not being like having the blind spot of
Yeah.
coming up with an answer that's still distorted by the things that are unaddressed.
Well, and like the answer that you want to give yourself, right? Like, no, I'm totally making this for the bigger vision. Like,
And as you've experienced already, right? Like I want the yacht, I want these things, but do I want to be how you call it the big boss or whatever, right? Or the big shit? I don't want to be that. So because I want to be that and I know what that's authentically like versus because that's gonna cure my like unworthiness. It's not,
I know.
right?
And
So
like
yeah,
this shit goes deep, right? Like, I mean, this is like probably like childhood shit.
100%.
Just
That
like,
is
yeah, duh.
definitely going to be a factor in all of this, as it is for all of us, right? Like I don't
Yeah,
say this to just point you out. It is, welcome to being human type of answer.
right.
Right? So yeah, I would say that definitely is part of where you're going to need to look. So I know that that is a much bigger topic than we could dive into on here. And there's going to be a lot of stuff to explore there for the sake of like getting clarity on what we spoke about today. Like, does this feel complete for
Mhm.
you, or is there still something left outstanding?
I'm actually pretty impressed that you could nail me so to a T, never having met me, spending 45 minutes with me. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm impressed, I have to say.
Thank you. Happens all the
It's almost
time.
like it's almost like you do it for a living.
Yeah, it's almost like this is my accounting gift. That this is I
Yeah.
count the mental part, not the numbers and figures part. So yes, that is
Yeah.
true. So thank you. I do appreciate that. And at the end of the day, as I told you before we started the recording, I can only go as far as you're willing to go. So your 50% in that is your willingness to bring forth the bits and pieces that I can reflect back and poke and prod at. So, that's number one. And then number two, if you can then just summarize in your own words, what did you come in here thinking was your business issue? And then what were the realizations and the awarenesses that you came out of from this conversation?
So I thought my business issue was not having a big enough network, or not putting the right pieces in place to be able to scale past where I am. And talking with you, it's probably more about me and my feelings of unworthiness, which I don't disagree with. Just that, and I don't mean to seem flippant, it's just that vulnerable emotions are very hard for me. I do like almost anything to avoid them. So good on you for bringing them out. But yeah, it's because I've always pushed back very hard on business is business. Like, I don't need to be doing this mindset shit, this woo shit in order to like be successful in my business. Like, I need business strategy, business plan, sales, those things. Right. So yeah, you just highlighted very clearly that that is not the case.
So, yes. And again, I acknowledge you for admitting that. And the nuance that I would add to your comment is the attitude of like, I don't need this like mindset shit is the perfect attitude to protect you from the vulnerable feelings you don't want to feel. Right. So, as much as that is also
100%.
true, there is like, you can do all the mindset work you want. And if you don't have the business skills to execute, it's not going to go
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. However, when you do have those, and you've
Mhm.
also set up an attitude that doesn't want to look inside, what you get then is exactly where you're at right now, the upper limit of where that attitude can take you. Right.
My
So
own
that
little hamster wheel.
the hamster wheel is exactly where you're at. So yeah, that this is why the next step isn't in exploring the strategy, because you're very good at that. Like that's abundantly clear. You know what you need to do there. It is in executing without friction and removing the distortions that cause that friction. Right. So I just wanted to close off with that. So does that, like, how does that land for you?
I feel like you're right.
I will take that. I will accept. So thank you. Okay, perfect. So in that case, if you can just close us off and let everybody know where to find you, who's the best person to find you. Floor is yours for that.
Yes. So first of all, thank you. This is very cool the way that you do this, and kudos to you for doing something different. So yes, my name is Christine O'Reilly. I am a finance manager for entrepreneurs and business owners. You can find me on Instagram at Christine in Finance, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Christine O'Reilly.
Beautiful. Well, as always, we will include all that in the show notes. Christine, thank you very much for coming on here and diving into the thing you hate the most, which is vulnerability. So I know many people will appreciate and relate to exactly, because this happens all the time. So I commend you for that, acknowledge you for that.
Thank you.
And for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.